also go to people who are tertiary institutions, federal tertiary institutions in the state, in a particular state, to harvest additional staff that can participate. We're looking at close to about 1 million ad hoc staff will be needed for the 2019 general election. So clearly we have to make sure that we have the relevant staff that will man the polls in every polling unit across the over 170,000 polling units, across the country.
Okay, permit me to take you back to the incident form matter. They were introduced because of the possibility of the card readers failing. Now, INEC has said that this time, if you come, the card will just authenticate that the card is a card issued by INEC, and then you'll be recaptured at that point. What's the guarantee that you can verify that the person carrying the card is the owner of the card before you recapture?
Well, that is misinformation. There is no recapturing in the sense of we're going to use the smart card like the way you do a new CVR, consumer visa registration recapturing process. That's not what is going to happen. There's provision within the documents that will be used at the polling units, wherein if you come, first and foremost, we verify that the card is an INEC-issued card. First and foremost, that's the first thing. That this card is duly issued by INEC. You are carrying the right card. So it passes that first stage of test. Then the next thing is to do your biometric. If your biometric fails for one reason or the other, and all the other issues checked out correctly, the picture matches the pictures, which the card reader will show, and your name is in the register correctly, and the VIN numbers, all these things, are checked out to be correct, then the person is eligible to go ahead, and vote, and then he will proceed. Now, we'll take additional information. What we are doing now, instead of use of the incident card, we have made provision within the register for us to capture additional information, not in the way of electronic capturing of information, not biometric capturing. We will take your phone numbers, we'll take your names, and then there's a space where you can talk within the paper and not in the machine. This is for us to do further analysis at the end of the poll. And in case there's some untoward behavior on the part of the person, we have the biometric, we have the data, we have the phone numbers and the names correctly, and we can follow up with that person. It also serves as a check for anybody who may want to perpetrate some kind of fraud during the poll. We don't expect people will do that. We expect people come to vote, they're coming genuinely, they have the right PVC, and their data is as in the register, which will be present at the polls, at the polling unit, and we'll check all this, and the person will be allowed to continue to proceed to vote.
Okay, Mr. Nwankwo, should this process that INEC is introducing, should it bother those who are preparing for the elections, or is it of concern to you?
It is of concern to me, and I think it's of concern to a lot of people. First of all, when someone comes and there is a doubt about the PVC or their name or the PVC not being read by the card reader, it raises a presumption of attempt to perpetrate fraud. Secondly, when you have this process that the National Commissioner has outlined, there is a time lag issue of dealing with that particular case. And if you do have a multiplicity of such incidents, then the period for voting in a particular polling unit would be affected by multiplicity of incidents. And thirdly, you also have to define when is it that the electoral official at the polling unit decides that if a card reader, if a PVC is not being read by the card reader, that it is not genuine, or that the person holding it is not the rightful owner of the PVC. So this is something that the Electoral Commission needs to provide further training for its staff on, and further enlightenment for the voters to be able to understand. But going beyond that and looking at the multiplicity of issues that surround the voting process, there must be thresholds that must be set, and we are in civil society are looking at those thresholds for you to describe an election as credible. One, of course, is very importantly, and everyone has been mentioning this point, the non-partisanship of the stakeholders in the electoral process, especially the security agencies, and everyone has continued to raise this. Yesterday, the police announced massive changes in the police setup in Imo State. States have complained, Akwa Ibom State has complained about 7 commissioners of police in a period of less than 12 months. Bayelsa, across the country, commissioners of police are being changed. Imo State yesterday was a massive change of virtually every leading police official a few weeks to the elections. All of these raise concerns about partisanship and concern about why this has been done. Secondly, we must look at the integrity of the voters register. There are still questions, and I think that looking at the elections, we must, as a threshold, determine whether the voters register it has sufficient integrity to ensure that people would say that this is what would guide an election. Thirdly, the collation process, and there has been conversations about how the collation process should happen. INEC should and must be able to display the voting results at the polling units and open up the process of collation up for starting from the ward collation level right up to the final levels of collation. This is very important. Fourthly, the issue of accountability. When people perpetrate fraud, they must be able to be held to account, and there must be a machinery to bring people to quick accountability at every stage of the election. Fifthly, we must also look at how you ensure that election officials themselves are non-partisan. So all of these thresholds, all of these issues are issues that civil society is developing in order to monitor and assess the sanctity, the integrity of the electoral process as we go into voting first of all, on February 16th and the subsequent election on March the 2nd.
Let me get your views about, yes, you've talked about security, we'll get to that later, but still on the process. INEC has said that, okay, we're not using incident forms, and we're going to skip to, getting the process with the card readers. But what do you say to some other people who feel or who think that, yes, we agree with INEC, but is it practical that on that day, all measures put in place to replace the incident forms, what if they fail? What next? You have monitored elections and you have seen scenarios that play out different ways. Do you think it's probable that that will happen?
Well, it could happen. We do know that the political parties, the candidates, politicians want to win elections. Whether they make commitment to winning elections by free and fair means is a major concern. And I think that INEC's preparations should start from the basis that there would be people who want to subvert the process. If you have abolished incident forms, then you must make adequate preparations to ensure that you do not have a multiplicity of persons who show up with PVCs that don't belong to them. There are reports across the country, and this is something that we need to verify quite closely, but there are reports across the country of people being deprived or PVCs being taken off people, of the voters' identification numbers, the VINs being taken off people, politicians buying this off. The question for a lot of us is, what is the purpose of these purchases? Why is so much money being spent to take control of the PVCs and the VIN numbers by politicians? And I think that INEC needs to go back to the drawing table to understand what is the game plan of those who are doing this and why is so much money being spent on this. And for civil societies also to understand what is the intended purpose of these violations of the election.
Well, Dr. Lecky, let me ask you. Yes, we've seen that the president did not assent to some of the amendments that the National Assembly proposed, but concerning those who raised a little bit of concern about transmission of results from the polling center to INEC's database, is that still going to happen? Is INEC still going ahead with that, notwithstanding the non-assent to this new amendment by the president?
Well, INEC is not going to do anything dramatically different from what it has done in a number of elections. As you probably will know, we have done, since this commission came, since post-2015 general election, we've done over 195 elections, constitutional elections across the country. And with every election, we have been able to make some progress, measurable progress, which we can outline, to satisfy the general public. Now, so having done that, I believe that we are quite ready to move on with 2019 general